Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're watching this particular episode of the Word Network. My name is Jojo and I want to believe that you are having a very beautiful day, be it morning, be it afternoon, be it evening. I want to believe you are having it blastful. My name is Jojo Tino, and this is the very first episode of the Word Network. And I want us to look at a Bible character that I personally love. I love his story. I like the way God reveals Himself through him, and I also like the teachings that God wants us to, get from His story. We are looking at Moses, and we are also looking at God through the eyes of Moses. Which characters of God do we see through the experiences of Moses? What do God reveal about Himself through the journey of Moses and the Israelites, all the way from Egypt to the wilderness, and many years later, some of them even you know getting to the promised land of Canaan. So, which aspects of God do we draw from this story of Moses? What lessons do we draw from the story of Moses? And we are going to read a lot of verses. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of uh, sore throat here, but it doesn't mean that we cannot talk. We'll just be getting onto it now. We are looking at the book of Exodus. That is where the story of Moses is told, all the way from the first chapter. So basically, we are going to read about the book of Exodus in this particular episode. I'm not going to do the whole of it. It is going to be this is going to be the first episode. Then we're also going to have another episode and another until we exhaust the book of Exodus, looking at God's character through the eyes of Moses. God through the eyes of Moses is there. So Exodus chapter 1. Well, the book of Exodus is basically the second book of Moses. Now, in chapter 1, we are told of the names of the children of Israel, which came to Egypt. Every man and his household came with Jacob. Remember the period when there was famine in Canaan, and then it happened that Joseph's brothers had sold him to Egypt, and then because of the famine back in Canaan, Jacob and or rather Joseph's brothers seek help from Egypt. And then, by the way, they are shocked to find that it is the same brother that they sold. I love this particular book of Exodus because there are a lot of lessons we learn. First of all, we are introduced. We are given a history of how they came to Egypt, because they did not just wake up and find themselves in Egypt. There's a reason why they came there. So first of all, in the first chapter of Exodus, we are introduced to their history. How did they end up in Egypt? All right, because we cannot talk about them without knowing how they came here. We cannot talk about the Exodus without knowing the genesis, the beginning of all these particular things. We cannot talk about their moving out of Egypt into a promised land, Canaan, without knowing how they ended up in Egypt. So that is what the first chapter, the very first verses of Exodus is introducing us to. They came during that particular period of famine in Canaan. Then the brothers had sold Joseph to Egypt to serve as a slave, or rather. And then when they come there, they're finding, oh, kumbe it is our brother that we sold that is now in charge of these particular things. What is happening? God had turned tables, all right? And then later on, Jacob and now the entire family moves to Egypt, and that is how they begin to reside in Egypt. Now, it is saying in chapter 1 verses 1 that Now these are the names of the children of Israel which came to Egypt, every man and his household came with Jacob, right? So we are told of Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan, and Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls. 70 people, 70 souls coming into Egypt. All right. Now, these 70 souls are going to form a generation. See what wanazaana? All right. Um, Verses 5. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls, for Joseph was in Egypt already. So they are also counting Joseph, who was already in Egypt. And Joseph died, and all his brethren and all that congregation. Mhm. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly and multiplied and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them. Si watu wamezaana, si wameanza kuja Egypt. Now now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. Mambo inachemka. Kukaja mfalme mwingine ambaye hakuwa anajua stori za Yusufu. He did not know what God did with Joseph. Yeye hakuwa anajua stori za Joseph na ama nini. Okay? And he said unto his people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Oh, come on. Let us deal wisely with them. Tufanye kitu. Tufanye kitu. Let us deal with them what? Wisely. So tufanye nini? Si wako wengi na sisi ni wachache na sisi ndio wenyeji. We are the owners of this land of Egypt. Na kidogo kidogo they will overpower us. So let us deal with them wisely. Now listen to the words of the Bible. Let us deal with them wisely, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them out of the land. Ya kwamba kukaja vita sahihi, watena na waungane na maadui zetu na wapigane dhidi yetu. Verses 11. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. So hapa ile slave trade imeshakuwa past. Okay? Whatever they were doing now, sasa ilikuwa they were being supervised. Na si tu supervision tu hii ya kawaida, ile ya slave trade, ile ya manyanyaso, ile ya mateso, the children of Israel. Okay? Na wakaanza kumjengea Pharaoh. Okay? Watu wanakanyaga matofali wewe, watu wanakanyaga matofali na vinahesabiwa. So the labor is intense, but the Bible does not leave the part that they are still continuing to grow. Because hata kama wanafanya kazi, haimaanishi sasa ati wameacha kuzaa. They are still continuing to grow. Bado wanazidi kuongezeka kinamba. And this particular thing is still troubling the then Pharaoh ambao wako hapo sahihi. But ikamsumbua akili. Listen. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. And they made their lives bitter. With hard bondage, in mortar and in brick and in all manner of service in the field. Unafanya kazi kislave. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives of which the name of the one was Shifra and the name of the other Pua. So we are seeing two women being introduced here, and these two women are going to do something remarkable that we are going to look at, or rather we're going to see much later during this particular discussion. Verses 16 of the first chapter of Exodus. And he said, when ye do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. So here the Pharaoh offers a decree that all the male Hebrew children should be what? Should be killed. They should die. Because see, wanaongezeka. So the only solution is to do what? Sorry, I'm having a little problem with the lighting. It is blinking. I don't know what's wrong up there. Okay? So this decree is that all the male Hebrew children should be what? Should die. So that they do not procreate. So that the children of Israel do not multiply in number. Why? They will one day come and overpower us Egyptians. Now, verses 18. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said unto them, 17. But the midwives feared God. The midwives did what? They feared God. They knew about the God of the Israelites. They knew about the stories of Joseph. They knew, they had seen whatever God had done. They know about this particular God called Yahweh. They know about this particular God, the only true God. Wanajua kumhusu, and they feared him. Oh. They feared God and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. So Shifra and Pua, they can be, because they're the very first women, apart from Eve, they're the very first women that, how can I say it? They are the very first women that are, actually defying orders from a government. They are the very first women that are, I don't know how to put it, but ni hao ndio wanapinga serikali kwa mara ya kwanza. They're not overthrowing, but they're standing up and saying no to a government. Apart from Eve, of course, Eve, they had been commanded, because God also have his government, and had told them that, you know what, of this particular tree, ye shall not. So Eve is the very first woman that is defying government. And then, now, Shifra and Pua are now the second people that are mentioned to be defying a government. Unaona hiyo story? Hao wanasema hiyo story tunakataa, tumekanyaga hiyo. Twende maandamano. Right? They are the very first people that are mentioned in the book of Exodus as those people who are actually standing for civil rights, that are standing for morality, that are trying to speak for, those people that cannot who speak for themselves, because they did not do according to how they were, did what? According to how they were instructed by the king of Egypt by then. Right? And the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said unto them, why have you done this thing and have saved the men children alive? Kwa nini? Na mimi niliwaambia ukiona ni kijana unafanya nini? Uwa mtu. Kwa nini umefanya kitu kama hii? And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively and are delivered, the midwives came unto them. Therefore, God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mightily. Oh, hey. Now, look at what the midwives are telling the king. that you know what, hawa wamama wa Israeli hawa wa Waibrania hawa mama, they're lively, they're fertile kushinda nini, kushinda hawa wamama wa nini, wa Egypt. Unaona, because there's a certain way in which the Hebrew women lived, the cultures in terms of food, in terms of venye wanafanya mambo yao, and then there's also a way in which the Egyptian women lived according to their cultures, food, customs, and everything, even in the way of worship. Okay, the first thing that is benefiting the children of Israel, first of all, they know about God. That is the first thing. The Egyptians, they don't know about this particular God. They are worshipping idols. They even have a god of fertility, that if a woman wants to procreate, I don't know, they must go to this particular god, wafanye sarakasi zao pale vile. No, these ones, wao Wahibrania, they turn to that particular god, they eat good food, and the midwives are saying that no, they're lively, they're fertile than the children of Egypt, than the women of Egypt. All right, and then the Bible is also saying that God dealt with these particular midwives. Where's that verse? God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mightily. Unaona, because si Pharaoh angewaua, they had defied orders, walikataa kufanya jinsi ambavyo waliambiwa, si wangeuawa. But what is being recorded here, that God dealt with them mightily, and the children of Israel multiplied and waxed mightily. God has a purpose why they didn't die. God has a purpose why these particular people are still multiplying. And it came to pass, because the midwives feared God, that he made them houses. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter ye shall save alive. The same decree bado inaendelea. Okay? Sasa hapo wanaambiwa, wewe ukiona mtu amezaa pale, mtoto kijana, ni utumbukize kwa bahari pale mtoni. Kama ni msichana, basi ataishi. Now, let us now dive into the part of Moses. That is why we are here. Ilikuwa ni introductory to what is this to. I don't know where the light has gone to. Nadhani stima zimepotea, but I think you can still see me from this particular light from here. Then there's also light from this particular side. Now, this is the second chapter is now where we're going to see the birth of Moses taking place, and now his journey, and coming to meet God, and coming to know his purpose, why he's born, why he's there, and what he's supposed to do. That is what we're going to see in this particular second chapter of the book of Exodus. Now, and there went a man of the house of Levi. I don't know if it's Levi or Levi, and took a wife, and took to a wife a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bore a son, and when she saw him that he was a goodly child. Oh, yani umezaa mtoto mpaka wewe mwenyewe unasema huyu mtoto wangu ni mzuri. She hid him 3 months. Yani huyu mtoto mzuri, mimi niende nitumbukize kwa maji afi. Mtoto mzuri kama this handsome kid, my God. Oh my God. Niende nitumbukize ndani ya bahari ya kufa. And when she could no longer hide him, 3 months, amemficha 3 months. 3 months amemficha 3 months. But after 3 months, sasa angeweza kumficha tena because mtoto anakuwa nini, so angeweza kumficha tena. She took for him an ark of bulrushes, and daubed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein, and she laid it in the flags by the river's brink, and his sister stood afar off to wait what will be done to him. So sister yake Miriam amesema pale anataka kuwitness huyu mtoto nini itamfanyikia, si wameshampeleka pale, si mtu inampeleka, so anafuatilia tu polepole mpaka pale ambapo mtoto angefika, kama angeenda, kama angechukuliwa. So they're just putting him there, you know, but they're still having a little hope that huyu mtoto kuna mahali ataenda vizuri. Kuna mtu hata kama si hapa, hata you know, just along the river Nile, kuna mtu atampata na atamwokoa mtoto, because he did not deserve to die. God had a purpose with Moses. He did not deserve to die, and God was not going to allow him to die. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself. Oh, Mungu ni nani? Mungu ni nani? The same Pharaoh ambao anaua watoto wa wana wa Israeli, mtoto wake ndio bado Mungu anamtumia. Alright? Mtoto wake ndio bado Mungu anamtumia. The same Pharaoh ambao amesha peana decree ya kwamba all the male Hebrew children should do what? Should die. Na mtoto wako anakuja kufanya nini? Kutumika na Mungu. Mungu ambaye hutaki kusikia story zake. Hey God. Oh God, yeah. Hey. Now listen to this. Amekuja kujosha pale vile. And her maidens walked along by the riverside, and when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. Ebu leta kile kikapu kinaning'inia pale vile. Kilete. Kinalelea juu ya maji. Kilete. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. Mtoto analia jamani. Na unajua watoto na emotional influence ile emotional manipulation unakonga nayo. And she had compassion. Watoto na emotional manipulation angeweza kuzuia. She had compassion on him and said, this is one of the Hebrews children. She knew. Huyu mtoto ni wa wale watu. Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee? Nini nikakutafutie pale kwa Waebrania, kwa sababu si ni hao wanafanya kazi. So of course angechukua mtu pale kwa Egyptians, lazima angeenda tu kutafuta kwa Waebrania pale, because they are slaves. Si wanafanya kazi with the rigor. Si kazi imekuwa ngumu and bitterness. Can I go and search one for you among the women of the Hebrews? Na si akakwenda Miriam si akaenda akaleta mamake mtoto. See how God is working.